Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well today. Today I have an absolutely amazing, terrifying, informative upload to share with you. Before we get into it, though, a couple links I'd like to share as well. As you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, and my merch store to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Those links are in the description below. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters Volume 1, 2, and 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeffrey Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes. The links to them are in the description as well. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's get on with today's upload. Shall we? Before we start the upload, something I need to address, and I apologize immediately. I very rarely have time to get into the comment section. When I do, I quickly read some, heart it out, maybe comment back. But at the end of every video, I express my appreciation. My channel would be nothing without you guys. Apparently, last night I had a subscriber who had been with me for many years. And he was, no other words to explain it, but hurt because I didn't heart one of his comments and hearted another subscriber's comment who had been with me just as long. And, they were picking a fight with me and with this other female, subscriber. And it was crazy. And they were saying, you were a good person. I thought you were a good person. You've changed. Your channel's changed. No, I haven't. I have not changed. It's 2:30 in the morning right now. I'm recording. I've been researching most of the day. I've been actually on the phone with a couple of people discussing some things. And then I took my daughter fishing. So I don't really have time to comment and heart. If I did, I would do it daily. But my appreciation to you guys is giving you an upload every day. So if you guys are upset that I don't comment or heart back, I apologize right now. I truly am sorry. But I just want to give you guys the best uploads daily. And that's hard to do because I don't want to share encounters that I've already shared. So I'm constantly researching other things, going here, talking to this person, doing this, doing that. So I apologize. And I lost a subscriber last night who has been with me for many years. But for that person to be that butthurt, I'm kind of glad they're gone. So, moving on into the encounters. Today's first encounter. One evening back in high school, a couple of friends and myself drove out to a very rural spot to get stoned and hang out. There wasn't a lot to do in my small hometown of rural Indiana, so these country cruises, as we call them, to random locations was normally the highlight of our weekend. There were lots of these spots that we frequented. Some were more secluded than others. We decided to go to a spot known as Green Valley. It was a public lake and fishing area, so it technically closed after dark. Not that it mattered because there isn't a gate and cops rarely came. Plus, there are a lot of Jeep trails that lead back into the woods, so if you're in a four-wheel drive vehicle, which we were, it's fairly easy to find a spot, park, and be hidden from the view. By the time we had arrived, it's nearly dark, so we pulled onto the main area of the lake, drove around to the backside, entered the woods via the Jeep trail. It had been raining a few days before. The trails were muddy, even without the rain, and had deep ruts in some spots from past visitors who were just mudding. Yeah, it's exactly what it sounds like. We drove big trucks and jeeps through mud pits in the attempt to get our vehicle as dirty as possible. Like I said, real small town. We didn't want to get sucked, so we stayed relatively close to the entrance of the trail. We drove back far enough to be hidden from view, killed the jeep, turned on the radio, and proceeded to roll up some joints. My two girlfriends and I smoked and talked and laughed about meaningless random stuff. We were having a good time when suddenly something hit the hood of my Jeep, not loudly, but enough to make me look in the direction of the noise. I rolled the window down, but didn't hear or see anything, and my friends seemed to not notice. I continued our conversation when a few moments later, another small ting sound came, this time on the windshield, and my friends heard it as well. After they questioned what the noise was, I decided to be brave and investigate. I assumed it was most likely acorns or walnuts falling from the trees overhead. I turned on the headlights, opened the door, and stepped out. After looking at my hood of my Jeep, I noticed a small gray rock lodged near the windshield wipers. I picked it up and showed them. We immediately recognized the rock. The front parking lot of the lake is made entirely of them. I quickly climbed back into the Jeep and rolled up the window and locked the door. Assuming someone was messing with us, we decided it was time to pack up and head out. Lots of meth heads around the area, and we're not trying to get robbed or stabbed in the woods by one. I start the Jeep, turn the radio off. I know I'm not the only one who turns down the car radio when treacherous situations arise, and began to carefully navigate down the short trail towards the back of the lake. All of a sudden, we're barraged with rocks, much larger than the initial ones, all hitting the driver's side of the vehicle. I would have been pissed, but right as I let out my initial "what the hell," we heard a sound I'll never forget. I never do the sound justice, as it's almost impossible to explain. It was a loud roar. The only thing that's ever come remotely close to it for me was when I heard a male lion roar at the feline sanctuary I visited with my husband years later. It was full of bass and lasted roughly 7 seconds or so. It was also fairly close. It was time to get the hell out of here. I floored it. We almost reached the trail entrance as I was driving way too fast when suddenly something slammed into the side of the Jeep, hard enough to make me fishtail a bit, followed by the same sound that we heard the first time, only higher pitched, almost like it had been injured. I slammed on the brakes, and in typical panic conversation between us, you know the one. What the hell was that? Did we hit a deer? That wasn't a deer. Oh shit, let's go. I quickly continued down the trail and was finally in view of the lake when my friend in the back seat started screaming. Oh my God, look! My friend in the front seat and I looked out the driver's side window to see a, in quotations, man running through the woods towards the lake. I only say man because it most definitely was on 2 legs and had the shape of a person. Only this thing was moving at an unnatural speed through the deep mud and trees and thorn bushes. And their proportions seemed to be greatly off. Longer arms and legs than the average torso. We watched in silence as this thing reached the edge of the lake, bent over and began running on all fours using its hands, and leapt into the water. It was early October, and while it wasn't freezing, the water was definitely ice cold. We got the hell out of there, drove 70 miles an hour on the back roads until we reached town. At the first gas station, we pulled over and got out of the Jeep. There was a small dent near the back end of the driver's side. I lied to my parents and said I had backed into a pole. We decided it was best not to tell anyone, as we didn't want to sound insane. But every time I looked at that dent, I thought about it. I went back to that area multiple times during high school and never saw anything again, But through the years, I've heard others seeing peculiar things out there, including one strange story of a group of kids seeing a man shoot himself while sitting inside of his car. They went to call the cops and came back to find nothing. Today's second encounter. This is my experience with what I believe to be a dogman. This happened in July. I was working at a very big factory in Stigar, Arkansas, in pretty much the east central part of the state. One night I got off of work at around 8 p.m. I went to one of my coworkers' houses and proceeded to indulge in plenty of beer. It was well after midnight when I left his house to make the half-an-hour drive home back to my house. Don't drink and drive, guys, please. But I was on the main highway that connects Stuttgart to England and was cruising around 65 miles an hour. And really had no oncoming traffic, as everyone was either heading the same way as me or had already turned off elsewhere. I had a car that had a light bar installed on the front bumper. I had the light bar on, and it really shined up the road in a good way. I went around a curve and noticed something dark off to the passenger side of the road in a ditch next to a rice field, walking the same way as I was heading. As I got closer to this thing, I could tell that it was covered in black fur and definitely walking on two legs. As I got close enough to see the complete look of the creature, it turned and looked at me. I felt like it was staring into my soul. I could tell that it had a wolf-like head and a very muscular body. I don't know if it was the alcohol I drank that made me see it or what, but I did not stop. I know I wasn't just seeing stuff, because the car that was behind me slammed on its brakes and backed up to get an angle of the field with their headlights. I kept driving and drove the rest of the way home doing well over 100 miles an hour. I made it home, at which I promptly ran into the house and slept with my gun in my lap. That night I kept hearing things walking around the outside of my house, and my bulldog would cower in his kennel and would not go out. I have not drunk more than 3 beers in a single sitting since. Today's third part of the upload. Just what in the heck is this thing? Lusk, Wyoming. A man in Jefferson City says he saw and ran over a creature resembling a dog and a rabbit. The 52-year-old Missourian, who provided a full name and contact info but asked to remain anonymous, claims he was driving from Colorado to South Dakota when he came across this creature. I was going from Colorado Springs to Rapid City. It was about 1 in the morning when I came over a small hill on Highway 85, just north of Lusk, Wyoming. The IT senior manager told news about the May 2012 incident. As I came over the hill, I saw a creature in my headlights. It looked like an oversized white rabbit. The man says he unsuccessfully tried not hitting the animal. As I came over the hill at a high speed, it was right in front of me in the road. I swerved right, and it ran left, but I still clipped it. Slammed on the brakes and reversed to look, but I didn't see it anywhere. He goes on to say that he was unable to find the body or blood on the car, but the animal left a dent in his vehicle. However, he continues, he has since sold the car, so he cannot provide physical evidence. The driver, who says he clearly saw the creature in its headlights, describes the creature as 2 feet 6 inches tall, about the length of 4 feet. Its fur resembled that of a poodle, white, wavy, and silky. It looked like a dog/rabbit cross, although its face was more canine than rabbit. It had very big, dark eyes and big ears. It hopped like a rabbit with its huge hind feet, but much slower, he said. The eyewitness added that he had never seen anything strange before in his life. In 2016, a child in Wisconsin claimed to have seen a horned rabbit. Arizona author and Bigfoot researcher Mitchell Waite in 2014 said he and his team had seen a giant rabbit, but were not able to capture it in the video due to the unexpected camera malfunction. They believe that it could be linked to the additional strange activity linked in the area. 2015, a biologist said that he and his wife were in the wilderness of the region between the United States and Canada, and they spotted a, in quotations, giant beaver in 2007. In 1983, a man allegedly encountered a similar creature in an undisclosed location in the state of Maine. He said the animal was about 14 feet long and believed to weigh well over 300 pounds. Today's fourth encounter. In a remote campsite in Trigg County, Kentucky, a man and his wife had a disturbing encounter with a creature. In June of 2017, the couple entered the campground and headed to the most remote campsite, looking for some peace and quiet away from other people. It was midweek, and they were counting on very few people being there. The area was wooded and was not too far from a fish cleaning station and a dumpster. The first night they were there, the husband heard something hit the side of his truck and hard. Deciding it was most likely a walnut falling, he didn't investigate. He also dismissed the sounds of sticks falling in the woods, as that's natural occurrence in the woods. The second night became a little more interesting. The couple were up a little later than usual. Having been on the phone with some friends, they were still talking quietly with each other as they were getting ready for bed. It's not certain how long they had been sleeping when the wife woke her husband, telling him that she had heard something moving in the trees. He was sure it was probably a bear, so he listened. At first, he heard 5 to 6 owls hooting nonstop, then some coyotes howling. The birds seemed to be awake and were also making a noise. Within 30 seconds, everything felt silent. That was when they heard something come crashing down the hill through the trees. They could hear the very heavy footsteps and branches breaking. It definitely sounded bipedal and not a bear, and not a deer. Even when the man coughed, the footsteps did not falter. Realizing that the flashlight had been left in the truck, he left the tent to retrieve it. He swept the tree line with the flashlight, but was unable to see anything. He also turned on the headlights of his truck's high beams. No intruder could be seen in the light, but the footsteps stopped. That was when they heard the sounds of 2 exhales, like someone sighing. And then, just as suddenly, he could hear whatever was heading back up the hill, making just as much noise when it came down. When it started to get light, the witness was able to see branches and sticks were broken, ranging from 5 to 6 feet high off the ground. At around 80 feet away from where they had pitched the tent, they could see 2 slide tracks in the mud where something had come to an abrupt halt, sliding sideways. The prints were made by something barefoot. That was enough for the couple. They quickly broke camp, throwing everything into the truck as they passed through the campground on their way out. They could see that there were no other campers. This person is a skilled outdoorsman, a retired Marine, and has extensive background and experience in hunting and tracking. This campground is located in the land between the Lakes National Forest. What do you guys think they saw? Today's last part of the upload. Really quick before I get into this. As you guys know, I am not just a narrator. I really do a lot of research. I really put a lot into learning as much as possible. And I believe that we can learn more, or not more, but we can learn about these things by taking as much information that we can and from wherever. And about 4 or 5 months ago, I did an upload about a Russian scientist, and she was studying the cloaking ability and the infrasound. Then the Russian government heard what was going on and confiscated all of her research, paperwork, and stuff like that, and forced her to work for them with no funding from the military. So she was forced to work for the Russian military with no funding. They had to fund themselves to prove that there were either Sasquatch or Dogman or something. Which makes a lot of sense to me because the countryside of Russia is huge. The old Soviet Union is just gigantic, so why wouldn't there be something there? There's something in America. I mean, in America is a little smaller. Well, 48 states. But anyway, I really enjoyed that Russian article. So I've got this that I think you guys will like. 1925, Russia's Caucasus, Pamir Ridge in the Vancha Mountains. The setting is the little-known grandeur of the Russian Caucasus Pamir Range. The year is 1925. While pursuing soldiers of the ousted White Russian Army, a relentless Red Army troop searched the rugged terrain, hearing tales of a beast man who lived in the higher reaches of the soaring Vanch Mountains. They came upon a cave that looked to be a stronghold for their formidable enemies, the White Army. The commanding officer ordered his men to open fire into the cave's opening. To their shock, a wild, hairy creature ran from the cave's mouth, screaming inarticulately in the hail of bullets. It fell to the ground, mortally wounded. Several minutes passed before an officer and his troops approached this beast, sprawled out in the dirt before them, lifeless. Staring down at this fallen creature, General Mikhail Stepanovich Toplowsky thought at first it was an ape. It was covered with fur, he said, but I knew there were no apes in the Pamirs, and, moreover, the body looked more human than ape-like, indeed, fully human. A physician attached to the unit would later write this: he didn't look totally like a man, but it was not an ape either. It was male, about 2 meters tall, 6 feet 7 inches, covered with dark brown hair, and the face was dark, distinctly ape-like. What was it? Could the wild thing have been the Russian Kaptar that we hear about today? The entire troop stated in their briefings that when the beast ran from the mouth of the cave, it did so on 2 feet, fully upright, dazed, terrified, and fatally injured. Others said the creature appeared to be in the obvious confused state of the pain as it fell, not able to carry the body of the creature with them. They buried it under a stone covered with cairn near the mouth of the cave. As with many tales passed down through the time, variations in the recounting will occur. In an example, Odette Charmaine wrote a somewhat different description of this creature in her book, The Yeti. She recorded the account this way: the corpse that was of a male was about 5.5 feet long and covered with dense grayish-brown hair, except for the face, ears, palms, knees, feet, and buttocks. There was shaggy hair on its upper lip. The skin on the hands, knees, and feet were thickly calloused. The face was dark, with dark eyes. A heavy and massive lower jaw, although the teeth were quite large. They seemed to be those of a human. The creature had broad, unusual muscular chest, but otherwise its torso was much like that of a man. Charmaine went on to write that when they buried the creature in a pile of stones, which again is somewhat different than the account that the old stories may vary, but the essential theme handed down through generations remains the same. We may never know the true nature of this hairy man-beast encountered by Russian soldiers, but similar reports are a matter of record all over the globe, news spreading rapidly with the advent of the new internet generation. This account is noteworthy for no other reason than the notation of its massive jaw, frequently mentioned in so many other classic accounts. Dr. Myra Shackley wrote the same story this way: the Pamir Mountains, lying in a remote region where the borders of China, Kashmir, Afghanistan meet, have been a scene of many Almas sighting. In 25, Mikhail Stefanovich, a major general in the Soviet army, led his unit in an assault on an anti-Soviet guerrilla force hiding in a cave. One of the surviving guerrillas said that while in the cave, he and his comrades were attacked by several ape-like creatures. Topolsky ordered the rubble of the cave searched, and the body of one such creature was found. Topolsky reported Shackley, 1983. At first glance, I thought the body was that of an ape. It was covered with hair all over it, but I knew that there were no apes in the Pamirs. Also, the body itself looked very much like a man. We tried pulling the hair to see if it was just hide used for disguise, but found that it was the creature's own natural hair. When we turned the body over several times on its back and its front and measured it, the body, continued Topolsky, belonged to a male creature, 165 to 170 centimeters, about 5.5 feet tall. Elderly, or even old, judging by the grayish hair on this creature. The chest was covered with brownish hair, and the belly was with grayish hair. The hair was longer but sparser on the chest and close cropped and thick on the belly. In general, the hair was very thick without any underfur. There was at least hair on its buttocks, from which fact our doctor deduced that the creature sat like a human being. There was most hair on its hips. The knees were completely bare of hair and had callous growths on them. The whole foot, including the sole, was quite hairless and was covered by hard brown skin. The hair got thinner near the hand, and the palms had none at all, but only calloused skin. Topolsky then adds, the color of the face was dark. The creature had neither beard nor mustache. The temples were bald, and the back of its head was covered with thick, dark, matted fur. The dead creature lay with its eyes open and its teeth bared. The eyes were dark, and the teeth were large, and even shaped like human teeth. The forehead was slanted, and the eyebrows were very powerful. The protruding jawbones made the face resemble a Mongol-type face. The nose was flat, with a deeply sunken bridge. The ears were hairless and looked a little more pointed than a human being's. The lower jaw was very massive. The creature had very powerful chest and well-developed muscles. The arms were of normal length. The hands were a slight. Alright guys, thank you for listening today. I hope you guys enjoyed tonight's upload as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. Once again, you guys are the heart and soul of this channel. I appreciate everything you guys do and say in the comment section, even if I don't get a chance to read it. I know it's there, and that means a lot to me. And I don't think you guys will ever know how much this channel and you guys do mean to me. So I apologize if you guys don't feel like I appreciate you guys enough, but I do. And with that, I'm going to bid you farewell. Thank you once again, and see ya!